Oh yeah, that's okay. Never walking through the forest setting, maybe this way. I'm not dead yet either. Yeah, I'm still alive. Yeah, I can.
Testing, testing. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody. We're going to start our service soon. So good morning, everybody. If you could take a seat, please. Good morning, folks. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Time to take a seat. Welcome, friends. Time to take a seat, please. Hello. Good morning. If those of you who could hear could encourage those of you who can't to take a seat. Let's mutually encourage each other to take a seat. Welcome, everybody. Yes, thank you. Ushers begin ushing. Guests begin guesting. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Time to take a seat. Yeah. Boris Bujan and Ben Heiss, could you report to the Lido deck, please? Boris Bujan and Ben Heiss to the Lido deck. Thank you. If everyone could please take a seat. And once again, looking for Boris Bujan and Ben Heiss. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Please take a seat. I don't know Boris or Ben, so. And as we're getting seated, I am looking for Ben Heiss and Boris Bujan. Could you make yourselves known to me and please come up and say hello? Yes. Hi, David. Great. Love and memories and celebration. Make sure they're here so I can introduce them. Yes, I'm going to have you go right at the beginning. Right away.
Yeah, Boris is here. I saw him.
Where is he?
He wasn't here, but I'll go see if I can look.
Yeah, just have him say hi to me. I just want it so I'm ready to introduce him when it's time. Yeah, that's me. Okay, thanks.
Actually, looked like you all.
I know.
Well, and
I've
with
heard
everyone
that for
running
6
around in
years.
shirts and bucket hats, it's like, sweet. And so, and then after
Yes.
I'm also going to give a little friend to UCI rowing spiel to kick off.
Well, we weren't going to have open mic and toast so people would have a little time to celebrate.
Okay,
So I think we'll have music. I'm sorry? What we want to do is we're going to have a formal celebration and then a break. And the break will be music and people get something to eat, and then let's you and me talk to the interviews, because what we wanted is there are a lot of variables here. So it might be that we would let the musicians go, and then maybe we designate. Hi Ben, Justin Hecht. I just wanted to know who you were and how shall I introduce you after Scott? What would you like me to say about you? Are you a coach currently?
Met him as a novice coach and a varsity coach.
Okay.
Yeah, we kept in touch and we had meals all the time, emails, phone calls.
That's great. Well, good to see you. Okay, great. Anything else you want me to say? Okay. And you know we're all doing like 3 Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this service of Memorial Louder, Higher, Up. I'd like to welcome everybody. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me all right? Welcome everybody. I'm going to give a few remarks and a bit more of a welcome, but first we have some housekeeping details, and David Heimerl of the UCI crew, who's been part of the crew who's generously helped us to use this wonderful space, will give us some announcements, periodically participated in with our friends from the John Wayne Airport. So David, go ahead.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'll talk a little bit later about Friends of UCI Rowing and the crew program, but right now, just to kind of housekeep a little bit. First of all, feel free to roam around the boathouse area. We should avoid the dock at all possible. It's a really steep ramp. There's water and all that kind of stuff. So please try to stay off the dock if you can, and if you drown, it's your fault. And then also, the bathrooms are right around on the other side of the boathouse. There's bathrooms for the current oarsmen, and then there's nicer ones that have running water that are in the trailer in the dirt area. So all the rest of you are allowed to use that. And then please kind of stay away from the Department of Fish and Game, which is the big building on the side there, just to give them space to come and go as they need to, because they have constant stuff happening. So we're kind of on this side of the island. And then afterwards, during the refreshments, if you're going to imbibe in beer or wine, you need to stay on the grass area with the alcohol. You can't leave the grass. So that's it. And let's actually have a really nice celebration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I'd like to welcome everyone here to our service of remembrance and celebration for the life of Duvall young Hecht, who passed away a few weeks ago at the age of 91. My name is Justin Hecht. I'm his eldest son, and I'm honored and pleased to welcome you all here and delighted to have everyone here to help us remember and honor his life. And so I'd like to say a little bit about our program today. It mixes a number of elements that were dear to Dad. Some reflections on his life as an oarsman, some reflections on how we knew him as a father and in other contexts. And we're also going to have some poetry, which Dad loved throughout his life, as well as different kinds of music. We'll have some wonderful sublime chamber music provided by the Pacific Symphony Youth Quartet, Sarah, Jaden, Chris, and Tiana. So let's give them a hand and say welcome and thank you. And we've also got Fred Sokolow here, who's going to play solo guitar, which was also very much something Dad loved and meant a great deal to him. So we'll have elements of remembrance, memorial, a little bit of inspiration, and something a little bit lighthearted as well, I hope. We've got a number of short reflections, and we'll end with some music. I'm going to give a closing reflection, which I hope will provide an inspiration and a bit of a call for action, because I think my father was very much a man for action, and I've thought a little bit about how we could most fittingly honor his memory. So I hope that you will, during this time, also take a time to reach out to people you might not know and see how deep and broad Dad's connections were. He really embodied the sacred tradition of hospitality and welcoming strangers and knitting people together, and we're all here to remember that legacy. So once again, thank you very much and welcome. I'd like to begin with a simple prayer from the Book of Common Prayer, which is a prayer for peace and remembrance. Dear Father of all, we pray to you for Duvall and for all those whom we love but see no longer. Grant to them eternal rest. Let perpetual light shine upon them. May his soul and the soul of all the departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. Thank you. I have two poems to read. Throughout my life with Dad, he expressed his deepest feelings in poetry. We grew up learning great story poems, The Charge of the Light Brigade, and one of his favorites, of course, was The Cremation of Sam McGee, which is a wonderful piece of American history and poetry. It begins, "There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold," and goes on from there to talk about what it was like for a Tennessee man to end up in Alaska. I'm not going to read that poem. We'd be here all morning. But I am going to read two poems. I'm going to read first one that I shared with my father. And Dad, you know, many of you knew him as a man of action, and he could be tough and decisive and get things done. He also had a very tender side. And in 1975, I was reading a book, 4 books on tape, a book called Centennial by James Michener. And there was a frontispiece of poetry, which is the Garden of Proserpine. Proserpine was the Roman name for Persephone, whom some of you may know as the goddess who descends into the underworld and takes with her all the plant life in winter and comes out in spring. So she, archetypally and mythologically, Proserpine or Persephone, was very much about death and rebirth and eternal and enduring life. And I read him the poem, and when I was done, I was delighted and moved and touched to see him crying. And I never forgot that moment back in 1975. So I'd like to read that poem, and then I have one more. So this is The Garden of Proserpine, and it's by Algernon Charles Swinburne from the latter half of the 19th century. From too much love of living, from hope and fear set free, we thank with brief thanksgiving, whatever gods may be, that no life lives forever, that dead men rise up never, that even the weariest river winds somewhere safe to sea. Then star nor sun shall waken, nor any change of light, nor sounds of waters shaken, nor any sound or sight, nor wintry leaves, nor vernal, nor days, nor things diurnal, only the sleep eternal in an eternal night. And the second poem was one that gave Dad increasing comfort as he faced his death. He knew it was coming, and he faced it with courage and dignity and strength in a way that was truly a model for all of us. We all really admire him for that. And I'm getting a clue to speak a little louder. Louder. Can people hear me? And could someone turn up the sound? Is there anyone who can turn up the sound, please? Okay. So this is a poem by A.E. Housman, who wrote A Shropshire Lad. It was one of the last books that Dad gave me. As I said, this was a poem that gave him perspective and comfort in his last days. With rue my heart is laden, for golden friends I had, for many a rose-lipped maiden, and many a lightfoot lad. By brooks too broad for leaping, the lightfoot boys are laid. The rose-lipped girls are sleeping in fields where roses fade. So I hope those poems give us a sense of some of the more tender aspects of Dad's soul. As we transition to the next step of the program, I'd like to say some thank yous, because this beautiful ceremony's been put together with a lot of work. I'd first of all like to acknowledge Mary Ann Mahoney, who worked very hard to put all this together. So thank you so much, Mary Ann. Was a dear friend of Dad, along with her husband Bob, in his last days. Thank you so much, Mary Ann. And also Mary Ann Rousseau, Anne-Marie Rousseau, who did a lot of wonderful work to put all this together. So thank you, Anne-Marie. The folks at the Boathouse, Coach AJ and Mike Sullivan, Sully, friends of UCI Rowing, David Heimerl, Mike Thompson, Scott Zotovich, and all those who made donations to UCI Rowing, the Duvall Hecht Memorial Fund, and also to our musicians. Again, thank you everybody for coming here and all the contributions you've made. And next, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce my brother with some scriptural reading and reflection, Dr. Klaus Hecht. Klaus, come on up.
So I was only given about 2.5 hours to speak, and so I'll keep it short. A lot goes through one's heart and mind at an event like this. And David Grant, who I've grown up with, a name and a consciousness of this individual, said, boy, Duvall would be really happy to see this, especially with the white tablecloths. And that really speaks to part of him that we all know and love. I actually had to write something down, and I call this oatmeal and oarsmen, because that's what comes to mind when I think about my youth with the crew, and reflecting that I haven't set foot on Shellmaker Island for probably 40 years. So I'm going to read this because I have to. I remember our house filled with a bunch of oarsmen eating oatmeal in the morning after workouts. Of course, back then, you all looked so tall, and there was that certain smell. Now, I haven't set foot on Shellmaker Island for 40 years. It brings back memories of driving the launch, learning how to row a single scull after proving myself in the wherry, and even rowing bow with him in a pair without. Looking at all the people here, I see that my dad impacted a whole lot of lives. Reading the tributes and memories has been a blessing, and I want to thank you all for sharing those. Sorry. One of my favorites was David Heimerl's piece about Kaplan's restaurant. I haven't met David, but I really love this. He said, a devout hunter, he visited Wyoming each year and wouldn't return until he had enough antelope to stock his freezer with little serving-sized bricks of meat. Kaplan's restaurant was his selected breakfast haunt in those days. He knew the manager and all the staff on a first-name basis. And I could say probably half the restaurants in Orange County, you could say that. He could violate every California health code with a wave of his hand. I love that. It's like, these aren't the droids you were looking for. Said, and he quotes my dad, here, 8 pounds of wild American antelope steaks. Please serve up a half a pound of these steaks and 2 eggs, scrambled, for all 15 of us. I'll wait. One water, 1 orange juice each. Extra napkins, coffee for me. Put it in a paper cup, half full. You may ask the others if they like some too. The staff would hop to it like we were royalty. He always allowed the nonsensical and often inappropriate banter of collegiate oarsmen, but by example, somehow, he derived the respect from each of us to the staff that they deserved. We learned that knowing someone's name was powerful. We learned that by looking someone in the eye, shaking their hand, and succinctly detailing your needs with a promise of fair treatment and fair pay was powerful. And that's an respect. Thank you for that. And Peter Mallory's recollection about a visit my dad paid to the University of Pennsylvania boathouse when my dad was in his 40s, still shackled in a gray Brooks Brothers business suit, pre-books on tape. He got Peter to row with him in a pair without. I never knew how hard that boat was to row, and Peter made it clear. He said, a pair, 2 athletes with 1 big, clunky sweep oar each, ungainly, 1 oar placed far in front of the other, asymmetrical, a pair. God-awful boat to steer, to balance, to row. God-awful. He said, if I end up in hell, I fully expect to be directed to the bulletin board at the River Styx boathouse. And if I'm very fortunate, I will be sent to the Stillwater tanks for a lifetime at steady state. And for those of you who don't know what cold water and ice is like, since we get to row here, I guess they have these tanks, I know you know. Anyway, he says, if I'm very fortunate, I will be sent to the Stillwater tanks for a lifetime at steady state. Or maybe I'll be chained to a noisy rowing machine and the guy from the Ben-Hur movie cracking his whip at me for the next 1,000 years. He said, that's if I'm very, very fortunate. If I'm not, I'll be assigned to row a pair with a total stranger. The point is, my dad never puffed himself up or bragged about himself. I had no idea of the magnitude of what it took to do all he did. He worked hard, he kept his nose to the grindstone, and let his accomplishments speak for themselves. Seeing all of you here today speaks to that. One of the last things I said to my dad was one of my favorite verses from the Bible, in the book of Numbers, where God instructs Moses how Aaron shall bless the people of Israel. And it's close to my heart. I love this verse, and I'm going to share it with you. It says, the Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And I really hope and believe that there was peace in his heart when he left this world. And I want to thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much, Brother Klaus, for those beautiful words and wonderful memories. And now we will have a reflection from Bob Ernst, whom I know as Ernie. And I've known Ernie a long time. Come on up.
Wow, what a great day, and it's good to see you all here. Justin, thank you for the introduction. I I don't know how profound you're going to think all this is, but I sat down and thought about my relationship with Duvall and Irvine Rowing, certainly, and came up with some things that I thought you ought to know. In the winter of 1966, I was a junior here at UCI, and that was the first year the school was open. I transferred here, okay? And my roommate and I lived in the dorms. Even though I could look out my dorm window and see my parents' house, I had to have that university experience. I'm sure you parents know about that. Mom, Dad, we got to have the university experience. So I lived in the dorms, and all these guys that lived around my roommate and I in the dorms, lots of them were on the rowing team. And I came here to play water polo at UCI, and water polo season was over and swimming season was over, and all these guys in the dorm said, you know, you ought to come down and watch a rowing practice, because if you do, you can go out in the launch with our coach, and of course he's an Olympic champion. And at that time in Newport, much the same as it is now, this place is a high performance community for water sport athletes. And I just thought the Olympics were the ultimate thing. So I said, okay, do you think he'll let me go in the motorboat with him if I come down? And they said, oh yeah, sure. So I came down, and right here by the dock, there was a launch, a big beige looking thing called the Pushy Cat. And any of you guys who were rowing at the time, I went out in the Pushy Cat with Duvall, and we followed the practice around out here on Newport Harbor. And we're just about done with the practice, and Duvall says, well, Ernie, do you want to try it? And I went, oh, geez, I don't know. I'm kind of like a water polo player. I don't know what, you know. So he pulls over to the motorboat, to the shell, and has this poor kid get out, you know. And that's not the worst of it, you guys. And he puts me in, you know. And so I rowed back to the boathouse with the guys in the crew. And I don't know how I did it. You know, the seat goes back and forth and the feet are tied all down and everything. But we made it back, and Duvall walked down the dock. And as I'm getting out of the boat, he says to me, well, are you going to come back tomorrow? And I said, geez, I don't know. I got to ask the water polo coach. So I enjoyed the coming back to the boathouse. And I mean, I was fascinated. I'm a technocrat. At that time in my life, I had 5 motorcycles and 2 cars, okay? So I came here and saw these racing shells, and in those days, they were like fine furniture. You know, they were wood, and they were shiny, and they were so cool. And I really thought the concept of me and the other guys in the boat being the motor, I thought that was awesome, you know? So I went to the water polo coach and I said, say, Al, you know, I went down and I watched the rowing practice, and the rowing coach asked me if I wanted to come back tomorrow, and, you know, there's no more swimming season. He said no. So I went anyway. And that was the beginning of my very short rowing career, okay? But the things that I really admired about Duvall the most when it was right here at the boathouse was, this guy, first of all, he was an Olympic champion. He's not going to tell us anything wrong, you know? We're going to get the scoop and the right scoop right from the beginning. And he showed us how to carry the oars and how to carry the boats. And, you know, the wooden boats were kind of fragile. So we had to learn all this stuff. And those of you who knew Duvall very well, there was only one way to do everything. And that was the right way to do everything. And so he, in my whole coaching career, he has been my model for how to teach novice people, particularly, how to row. Carry the oars correctly so you don't break the ends of the oars off just carrying them. Carry the oars this way, turn the boats over that way. Wonderful. So Duvall was not only my coach and my mentor, but Duvall was a life friend. And how much respect for you can you have for a man who's such a visionary? Think about this. 50 years or so, this was just a sand dune here covered with seashells. And Duvall didn't go to the university. He didn't go to Dr. Ulrich's house, which is right up there on the bluff behind me. He didn't go see Ulrich and say, you know, if you give me a bunch of boats and you give me a building, I'll come down and coach the rowing team. No. Duvall was way too smart for that and way too persuasive and way too powerful a personality. He went and said, okay, I've got people to donate the boats. I've got people to donate the slab that we're standing on. I got people to donate the building. And you know, it's really stupid if a place like UC Irvine on Newport Bay doesn't have a rowing team. And of course, Dan Aldrich was a really smart guy. He said, you know, you're right, Duvall, let's make it happen. Duvall Hecht was a make it happen guy. He made it happen with this rowing program, and he made it happen with books on tape. And what's not to appreciate and respect and love about that? Excuse me, I'm actually checking some of my notes here. I can say that he gave me my first opportunity not only to row, but he gave me my first opportunity to coach. In 1968, he let me coach the JV team here. And then in 1969, he had boosted me up to being the varsity coach here. So I coached here for 6 years, and I have to say I loved every minute of it. Got a lot of respect for the program. He really helped me along in my career as a rowing coach. And I want to give you one little insight, and this is a very personal thing for me. I have a son whose name's Thomas, and he's a naval officer. And I really hoped when Tom was born, because I'm like an old dad, okay? I really hoped that Tom would get to meet Duvall. And when I told Duvall that my son was going to go to the Naval Academy and be a Navy officer, he was ecstatic, okay? He thought, okay, here's a kid who's bright enough to get into the U.S. Naval Academy, and he actually wants to serve in the military. Well, by and by, Tom got stationed down in San Diego. He was a navigator on a destroyer. And I said, okay, Tom, you got to come with me. We're going to go meet Duvall, my rowing coach, and the guy who created books on tape. Tom and Duvall had lunch several times. They both like literature. They both liked history. They both liked military history. And they didn't just have lunch. They were like 2 or 3 hours talking about all of this stuff that they both really appreciated. So it was my relationship with Duvall was monumental. He was very supportive in my whole coaching career, and he was always sending me notes, and we were talking on the phone, and you guys know the routine. When he had the semi truck, I think I was like number 2 or 3 on his speed dial list, you know. He'd call me up and he'd go, hey, Ernie, I'm in Tallahassee or someplace like that. You know, we got to talk. And we talk about rowing. So he did a lot for me. He did a lot for my family. And certainly he's done a lot for this University of California and lots of you out there. So let's all appreciate what he's done. You know, the one thought that I've had, and I'm going to wrap this up, Justin, so I'll make your life easier. The one thing that we need to figure out, we need to figure out how UCI crew gets to be more of an intercollegiate varsity sport, okay? We need to upgrade this facility. This is the same building that was here when I came here, okay? We need to have a more substantial facility. We need to come up with enough money so that the athletic department makes us a varsity sport again. Justin, thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful and enthusiastic endorsement and memory. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Boris Bujan, who was the first coxswain of the first freshman crew here, for his brief remarks and poetry. I've known Boris a long, long time. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Hi there. my parents in the 60s, I'm from Laguna Beach. I went to Laguna Beach High School. They had a restaurant in Laguna, and they provided occasional food service here at the boathouse for events. One of the last events that they did before they sold the restaurant was to host the crew party at the end of the season in 1969, and it was a pretty monumental year because of something that happened up the coast in San Francisco. And at that dinner, Duvall had written a poem which he debuted in front of all of us. And I have a copy of it here. I'd like to read it. I will not do it justice, so bear with me. But here we go. It's titled, "The Humble Berkeley Bear." 'Twas the second week of April in the year of '69 that Cal and Irvine rowed their crews up to the starting line. The water lay limpid blue, the weather it was fair, that day that Irvine oarsmen put the wood to work Berkeley's Bear. The Berkeley crew was strong and big, and paper called them tough, so why should they anticipate a race that might be rough? They thought the Irvine scrofulous, unable to prepare a race where they might hope to put the wood to Berkeley's Bear. There had been hints of things to come in that race a year ago. We held them down to the Fruitvale Bridge before we let them go. They thought they had us humbled, they thought, and that in their deep despair, we'd never even challenged the mighty Berkeley Bear. But in their plan to race us, they made one great mistake. They discounted the will to win that makes a light crew great. They traveled down that morning to the bay at Newport where, like Bonaparte at Waterloo, disaster stalked the Bear. The JVs came up to the line, all ready for the race. The crews went off all even at a strong and sturdy pace. But when the contest ended, who lay unbelieving there, 2 lengths behind the Irvines, the toothless Berkeley Bear. He stacked the JVs, raved the Cal coach to his crew. Now you just give their varsity what the JVs gave to you. So out they went to win revenge and instructions from McNair, while Irvine lay to wait to put the wood to Berkeley's Bear. They drew up to the starting line, that California crew, a flexing of their muscles, but a missing water too. They used their oars like blackjacks, and they fanned a lot of air. How sweet to think that we might splinter the Berkeley's wooden bear. "Oh, starters, start the race now," McNair commanded then, and start the race he would have for those 16 eager men. But as the race got underway, the Cal coach cried unfair, and the starter called them back to please the weak-eyed Berkeley Bear. And off the line they went again, the Cal crew out ahead. "Oh, squash them, squash the Irvines," a Berkeley oarsman said, "and squash us." Well, they might have, but the gods of rowing spare none whose style profanes than did the graceless Berkeley Bear. At 1500 huff and puff they muscle men did row, but Irvine hung serenely there like they were under tow. Oh, curse them, curse the Irvines! It seemed almost unfair to think that Irvine had the wood to put to Berkeley's Bear. At 1800 came the sprint, and it was fine to see the lanky Irvine oarsmen out in front where they should be, and as they crossed the finish line with at least a foot to spare, you knew that Irvine had put the wood to Berkeley's broken Bear. Now better boats there may be that carry Irvine crews, and years to come we'll hear of such and celebrate the news, but it's we who handled Stanford first and first beat the Husky crew and humbled Westwood's Bruins, not an easy thing to do. And in the halls of rowing, in the same ledger written fine, appears a note about our crew of 1969. Oh, they were ornery bastards, but they had the heart to dare, these Irvine oarsmen who first put the wood to Berkeley's Bear. Duvall Hecht, May 29th, 1969. Has been a friend my whole life. When I graduated from college, I was looking at going into the military, and many of you may know that Duvall was a Marine Corps pilot. They like to call themselves aviators. and he encouraged me to join up. Unfortunately, to his dismay, I joined the Air Force. He wrote a letter of recommendation, and that was 1969, and I don't think I needed the letter because they just needed bodies, but he wrote a letter of recommendation, and then he called me up and apologetically and said that he had dictated the letter, and it was typed, and he signed it, and it was mailed off, and after he mailed it off, he read it and saw where he had stated in the letter that I was cool under pressure. It was written that I was cruel under pressure. So he immediately wrote a correction, which I don't know whether the first letter or second letter was the one that got me in, but because of him, I had a wonderful 37-year aviation career. We were in contact off and on. The last time that we were together was at another oarsman house up in Idlewild. Roland Buchanan and Mike Thompson and I and Duvall went up there for what we called a powwow. It was the second one that Duvall and I had done up there, and we were hoping, that was in 2019, we were hoping to do more, but life's events got in the way, and we had to postpone, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that again. One last little thing I'd like to say about Duvall was when I was in Air Force pilot training, I got a package from him in a letter. And the letter explained what was in the package. What was in the package was something called a Zeus key, spelled D-Z-U-S. And he explained that a Zeus key was used to open up the panels on the Bearcats that he flew when he was in the Marine Corps. And that he didn't know if the jets had Zeus fasteners, but he thought it would be something that I could use in my kit. So as it turned out, the T-37, which I was flying at the time, did have Zeus fasteners, and so I got out my Zeus key and went up to open up a panel and discovered that as a student pilot, brown bar lieutenant, the crew chiefs frowned upon you touching their aeroplanes. So I was never actually able to use it, but I kept it with me, and I kept it in the left-hand thigh pocket of my flight suit. It was with me in all my flights in pilot training. It now resides in my night table by my bed, but I brought it down with me today, and I have it in the thigh pocket of my shorts. And I'm so glad that so many of you got the memo and wore the uniform of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Boris, and for reading that beautiful and just very dad verse, remembering the Berkeley crew. We now have a moment of quiet reflection with our youth quartet, New Satisfaction by Eric Satie.
Should I turn up the exposure? That better? Yeah, what do you think? Should do one more. Start talking, you put exposure up to that over. Got it, yeah, 16, right?
Thank you so much for that lovely, beautiful, thoughtful piece. So now we have time for two more very brief reflections from Scott Hirotsu and Ben Heiss. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a gesture. So Scott, where's Scott? Okay, Scott.
Okay. I already got it. It's my new license plate, so really quick, let's do this. Hello. So I'm going to read the first letter Duvall ever wrote to me. It's dated January 30th, 1995. It says, "Dear Scott, thank you very much for joining me for breakfast at Ruby's Jaguar Diner on Friday morning, January 27th, and for reviewing your career plans. I can offer you some help, which I'm very happy to do as following. Contact Ted Neal regarding an introduction to his son, who is involved in the motion picture location business. Talk to Lane York Montgomery about her friend who is from North Carolina and who freelanced as a film interviewing condemned murderers on death row. Talk with my son Justin about friends you may have in the motion picture industry." I'm holding you, not Justin. No. It says, "As soon as I've made all these talks, Scott, I will report back to you. Meanwhile, all best wishes. Yours sincerely, Duvall." And bottom is DYH/JF. That's, everyone knows, Jan Faisal. Second, I'm going to read a poem I wrote. It's called Hello Duvall. Hello UCI Rowing. Hello Shellmaker Island. Hello By George. Hello Yellow Pads. Hello Ma Barker. Hello Chicken Coop. Hello Black Knights of Beverly Hills High School. Hello Los Angeles Athletic Club. Hello Apollo Club. Hello Ren Spooner. Hello Bucket Hats. Hello Books on Tape. Hello Stone Pillows. Hello Venison Dinners. Hello Pick-a-Pepper. Hello Bombay Gin, hello Churchill, hello Wall Street Journal, hello Semper Fi, hello Trucking Road Trips, hello New Friends, hello Sunrises, hello me, never goodbye Duvall, always hello.
That was brilliant, Scotty. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful. And now for another brief reflection, we've got Ben Heiss, who coached with Duvall and saw Duvall as a mentor when he was a novice coach. Come on up, Ben.
All right. I'm going to probably be the only person up here that cries, and I'm going to look like a total weak person, but, it's okay. All right, so Duvall taught me a lot more than just how to row. One of the key things that he taught me was to slow down when I speak and to enunciate. So I will do my best to honor that lesson today as I talk a bit about the man Duvall was to me, and I'm sure to many of us. He also taught me that real men don't use straws. So as much as I'd like to enjoy a soda with a straw, I can't without hearing his voice say, "Ben, real men don't use straws." I first met Duvall in early fall of 2009. We had just been cut from the varsity status and relegated to club status, and despite the efforts of the coaching staff, the athletes, and the alumni, we were going to move forward as a club. Duvall sent me an email and asked that I meet with him at British Cafe to discuss the rowing program. So Ashley Parrish, who's here today, and I met with him at British Cafe. I can remember walking in and seeing him in his trademark cargo shorts with his legs crossed and a newspaper open in front of him. We walked in and I introduced ourselves and sat down to discuss the program. Duvall never once mentioned that he wanted to coach the team outright. He simply told us that he wanted to support the team in whatever fashion he possibly could, whether that was for 3 weeks or for 9 months. Before that meeting, I didn't know who Duvall was. I didn't know that he founded the program, I didn't know that he was an Olympic gold medalist, and I didn't know that he founded Books on Tape. Needless to say, Duvall had plenty of wonderful stories to tell us at dinner that night. Ashley and I left dinner and sat down outside of Chaw for tea and called our former coach, Scott Charette, to ask whether or not he thought Duvall would be the right fit for the job. Again, Duvall never said he wanted to coach, but his comment about wanting to support the program, for whether it's 3 weeks or 9 months, told us all we needed to know about Duvall. He just wanted to help. So I called Duvall and I asked him if he was willing to coach the crew. I can still vividly remember the sound of his boisterous laugh. He said of course he'd be happy to coach the team. That was the beginning of the development of one of the best friendships and mentorships I'll ever know. Duvall taught me more than just how to row. He taught me what it means to commit to something with my entire being, and he taught me what it means to do whatever it takes to set out not just to win, but to simply be the best version of myself that I possibly can. The first quarter that we were back at practice, we were unable to practice at the boathouse or on campus, so Duvall reached out to Zeno Mueller to rent out his indoor rowing facility so that we can train. This was an example, one of the many examples, of his creativity as he strove to give us the best possible opportunity to be our best. Duvall taught me more than just how to row. Duvall taught me what it meant to work harder at something than I ever thought I possibly could. He taught us the value of work ethic. The next quarter practice began at 5:30 a.m. Then Duvall wanted to get in more work, so we began practice at 5:15. Then he said to us, "What's 15 more minutes?" What's 15 more minutes, men? So we began practice at 5 o'clock, but he didn't stop there, and we began practice at 4:45 for an entire quarter. At that time, it felt crazy to us that we were waking up at 4:15 to get to the boathouse and either erg or lift right out here, but Duvall was driven to get the most out of us. Duvall taught me more than just how to row. I believe that Duvall taught us how to be real men. We are told that a real man is the type of person who pumps up his chest, pushes out people out of their way, and gets what they want. But Duvall would take us aside before a row and he would read to us poetry. In more recent years, as Duvall and I would get dinner or meals, he would recount for me stories from his past, whether it was with rowing or not, and he would get choked up. I never once saw this as a sign of weakness because of what he taught me. He taught me that it's important to love, he taught me it's important to care, and he taught me it's a sign of strength to allow for your emotions to be involved, whether that is pouring out your heart and soul in the last 250 of a race, or whether it's being emotionally invested in your friends, family, and your work. I can vividly remember when I was coaching novices at UC Irvine. 2 of our stronger athletes showed up late to practice. I was standing on the launch as we were launching 3 novice 8s, and these 2 guys come running down the dock late. I've always been able to keep my cool until that point, so I yelled and I got mad and I told them to go home. I remember being really upset at myself for letting my emotions get the best of me, and so I went to Duvall, who will always be my greatest mentor, and told him what happened and how mortified I was that I did that. He said to me, "Ben, it's important to be genuine. When you're mad, be mad. When you're sad, be sad. When you're happy, be happy." And that is something that has stuck with me my entire life and everything that I've done. In my mind, that's what it means to be a real man. Be genuine. Duvall taught me more than just how to row. He taught me what it means to be selfless and self-aware. He always told me that as a coach, the worst thing that you can do is sink your nails into a program or a team that no longer feels that you are doing the job. It's about the athletes you're coaching, not about you. I began coaching the novices the year after my graduation with Duvall as the head varsity coach. The novice crew had a successful season, beating programs with recruiting opportunities and varsity status. And the next year, those athletes went up to the varsity squad and were not performing to their potential. Duvall took me to the chicken coop. We sat down, and he said to me he felt that I should coach the varsity program. He said he knew that the athletes could perform better than they had in the fall, and that was what was best for those athletes. I don't think I can think of another coach who would ever do something like that. Most coaches, myself included, would tie their egos to their performance of their crews and want to prove themselves and everybody else around them that they can get it done. But Duvall was selfless enough to do what he thought was best for the varsity program and asked me to move on to coach the varsity. I said I would do it on one condition. I needed him to come out and be another set of eyes on the launch. He and I spent that spring coaching the varsity program to the first WERA victory since 1992, which was also a Duvall coached crew. After that season was over, Duvall introduced me to Bob Ernst, who we met today, and I had the opportunity to coach at the University of Washington with Bob. That was the beginning of my coaching career that led me to ultimately being the head men's coach at the University of San Diego. I never would have had those experiences without Duvall. Coaching was a passion of mine that Duvall gave me. He taught me the art of moving a boat, he taught me how to love that art, and he taught me how to be a leader. Before coming to college and rowing at UC Irvine, I was not the leader that I am today. I never would have been a captain of a rowing team, I never would have been a head coach at a varsity program, I never would have been a manager at jobs I've had in the past, and I would not be working for Medtronic as a medical device sales rep. Almost done, Justin. Duvall did more for me than teach me how to row. He changed my life. Not only did Duvall introduce me to Bob Ernst and give me the opportunity to try my hand at coaching at the highest level, but he also introduced me to John Higgins, who's also here today, who's my current boss at Medtronic and a close friend. He was a constant advocate for me. He believed in me. Duvall was a father figure to me. I'm not sure what the program would be had Duvall not reached out to us early fall of 2009. Surely that's the same for many of us here. The rowing program may not have been here had Duvall not founded it back when UCI was established. The rowing program may not be here had Duvall not resurrected it in 1990 when the athletic department threatened to shut it down. The rowing program may not be here had Duvall not kept us afloat in 2009. More important than that, I'm not sure who I would be had I not met Duvall. I have so many things that I want to say, so many stories that I want to tell, but I know that all of us feel the same. I know all of us have stories to tell because he was that type of person. He was the type of person that left his mark on each of us. And it wasn't because he went out of his way to make an impact, it was just because that's who he was. He was a friend, a mentor, a coach, and I think all of us are forever better because of our incredible opportunity to have stumbled across the rowing program here at UC Irvine and to have been told to keep the blade closer to the water, don't drop the hands when you square the blade, look for deep, dark, dense blue puddles, keep it quiet, row longer, just another inch. One of the last text messages that Duvall ever sent to me said, "Don't spend a moment worrying about me. Eyes in the boat, I know you'll give it everything you've got." His voice saying that to my teammates and me, to give it everything we've got, will always be in my head. He always drove us to be better, stronger, more genuine, and more selfless. I'm so grateful to have met him, and I will do my best to keep my eyes on the boat and give it everything I've got. Thanks, Duvall.
Thank you so much, Ben, for that beautiful, moving, heartfelt tribute. Not a second too long. Thank you very, very much. So we're going to have a musical entertainment now from Fred Sokolov, and this gives us another chance to enjoy one of the paradoxes of Duvall that Anne-Marie and I have chuckled about a bit over the years. This is called Talking Union, and those of you who know Dad know his politics were interesting, and that he might not always have been so supportive of the union, but he was a huge fan of Pete Seeger and took great pleasure in mastering this particular song, Talking Union. Take it away, Fred.
long, I'm going to have to shorten it a little bit. But about 100 years ago, almost, in the rural South, there was a form, almost an early form of rap music called talking blues. And there was a certain musical form that people would write their own lyrics to it and speak them instead of sing them. And it would they could tell whatever story they wanted to tell. And this form has persisted into more recent times. After the atomic bomb was dropped, someone wrote a talking atomic blues. And in the early 60s, during the height of the Cold War, Bob Dylan wrote Talking World War III. So in 1941, Woody Guthrie knew the form, and he was in a group called the Almanac Singers with Pete Seeger and two other guys. And they got together, and they were working, they were involved in the struggle to organize the CIO and other unions. So they wrote Talking Union Blues, and it went like this. Now, if you want higher wages, let me tell you what to do. You got to talk to the workers in the shop with you. You got to build a union, got to make it strong. But if we all stick together, boys, it won't be long. You'll get shorter hours, better working conditions, vacations with pay. Take your kids to the seashore. Now, it ain't quite this simple, so I better explain why you got to ride on the union train. Because if you wait for the boss to raise your pay, well, we'll all be waiting till Judgment Day. We'll all be buried on to heaven. St. Peter will be the straw boss then. Now you know you're underpaid, but the boss says you ain't. He speeds up the work till you're about to faint. You may be down and out, but you ain't beaten. Pass out a leaflet and call a meeting. Talk it over. Speak your mind. Decide to do something about it. Well, once you got a union, you're sitting pretty. Put some of the boys on the steering committee. The boss won't listen when one man squawks, but he's got to listen when the union talks. He'd better. If we all walk out, he could get mighty lonely one of these days. Now, boys, you've come to the hardest time. The boss will try to bust your picket line. He'll call out the police and the National Guard. Tell you it's a crime to have a union card. They'll raid your meetings, hit you on the head, call you a red, unpatriotic. Yeah, but down in Detroit, here's what they found, and out in Frisco, here's what they found, and out in Pittsburgh, here's what they found, and over in Bethlehem, here's what they found, that if you don't let red baiting break you up, and if you don't let stool pigeons break you up, and if you don't let the vigilantes break you up, and if you don't let race hatred break you up, you'll win. What I mean, take it easy, but take it. Talking Union Blues.
Thank you, Fred. That was just wonderful. And my sister reminded me that Dad, of course, rewrote the lyrics to say you got to talk to the fellows in the boat with you, and in the end, you'll win. So that was Dad. And now I'm pleased to introduce my sister, Leo Rousseau, along with her mom and aunt, who's going to share a reflection. Come on, Leo.
Hello, everyone. Oh, sorry. Okay. I just want to start off by thanking you all for coming today to celebrate my father's extraordinary life and honoring the truly incredible father, friend, and mentor he was to all of us. He was the most selfless person I had ever met. Everyone loved being around him, and he equally loved being around people. He was a people person, and I saw how he treated everyone in his life, especially strangers. Any restaurant I went to with him, by the end of it, he would be best friends with the waiter. This could either be because he was actually that nice and they liked him, or the fact that he gave them an overly generous tip. Either way, he always treated people with kindness and saw the good in them. My dad was a person who loved life and always gave gratitude every day for all the blessings in his life. For being such an accomplished and awarded man, he was as humble as they come. Even with all his accomplishments in his life, from starting books on tape to winning a gold medal at the Olympics to coaching crew at UCI, he had never once acted like he was the star of the show and never made things about himself. This shows the type of quality man that he was and how he pushed himself to the limits at times, but always remained grateful and down to earth. Now, I want to talk about some of my favorite memories with him. These include playing catch in the park to traveling the country in his 18-wheeler truck, to him teaching me manners at an early age, and to eating family dinners at the Chicken Coop, which was his favorite restaurant. Something I'll always appreciate was that every night he would stay up late working in his office and always waited until I got home from hanging out with friends or doing homework late at the library just to make sure I got home safe. He always made me feel so loved and taken care of, and that's something I'll never forget. Some nights we even shared burgers from Carl's Jr. while my mom was asleep. These are the intimate moments that I'll remember for the rest of my life. He was a man in my life that I always looked up to and had learned so many lessons and wisdom from. The one piece of advice that'll stay with me forever is when he said, "No matter what you do in life, you'll be successful, because I know you're a hard worker and people like you." What I took from this was, even if I'm not naturally good at something right off the bat, if I can just outwork everyone around me and do it by being myself, then I can go far in this life. Now I want to read you all a text he sent me on September 4th, 2021, because I think it sums up the type of father he was and how much he truly loved and cared about me. It goes as follows. First, thanks for the mail and bathroom rug, but that's not why I am writing. The real reason is because of what I said to you last night. Have you ever said something later and wish you could take it back? Well, that's how I feel about my remarks when you came home. Earlier yesterday, without my even asking, you had moved a ton of groceries and cat food into the house from my car, plus collecting the mail, and what did you get for it? Rather than thanks from your old man, a lecture on what more you could have done. What could have possessed me? Whatever it was, I wish I could take it back. Listen, Nooks, the nickname he used to call me. Do you remember what my mother told me when I was your age? Always welcome, but never obliged. That is how a loving relationship should be. I trespassed on my mother's guidance, and I apologize. If you were to never bring groceries and mail in, if you were to never take trash out to barrels, it would be as 1 is to 100, not even worth thinking about. Your real gift to us is your presence, your wonderful positive energy, your loving nature, your optimism and independence, and remarkable work ethic. When you burst through the back door heading for your room, my heart lifts and I think what a blessing you are in my life. You never have to do anything. It's just a feeling I will always have. I'm a lucky guy to have you and your mom in my life, and I know why I feel that way. Always with love, Dad. Of course, he wanted me to help around the house and do my chores, but at the end of the day, all he really cared about was that I was in his life, and that alone brought him so much joy and happiness that those other things didn't matter in the end. He was just grateful that I was around, and I am so thankful I was able to be a source of happiness for him. My dad had never once worried about me or my future. He always trusted me and knew that I would have a successful life. Knowing that he trusted in me has helped me trust in myself more. I don't know what my future holds, but I'm more confident that I'll find my way because my dad always knew I would. So with that, thank you, Dad, for everything you've taught me and instilled in me, and I am a better person because of you. Thank you.
Hey, just a minute, I'm going to set it up. Thank you very much, Leo, for a beautiful and moving tribute to Dad, and just beautiful. Thank you so much. Marianne and others, I'm going to ask, are we passing things out? Do we need a moment? Let's pass them out right now, and I'm going to tell you what we're doing. Right now, you are being passed out sheets of My Little Grass Shack, which was one of Dad's favorite songs. Now, Dad used to ask all of us to sing at gatherings, and those of you who've been to dinners know that he says this, and I'm going to teach you a new word in Hawaii. The word is longer than the fish. The word is huma, huma, nuka, nuku, apu, wa'a, and we're going to say that together in a memory of Dad. And I want to say just a little bit about the spirit of this. Is there anyone out there who's been to a jazz funeral in New Orleans? Anyone? Oh, I may be the only one. There are two things that happens. There's the first line, and it's a dirge, and you march very slowly behind the coffin, and people cry and wail, and they play a sad blues. And after the ceremony and the tributes, they have what they call the second line, and people dance with little parasols, and they sing When the Saints Go Marching In, and they cry and they wail and they let it go. Now we're here in Newport Beach, and we're a little formal, and I'm in a blazer like Dad, but I like to think that when we say, I want to go back to my little grass shack, that's a blessing for Dad, and we can all learn how to sing huma huma, nuka nuku, apu wa'a. It's not that hard, and when we think of that fish go swimming by, we'll have a memory of the lighter side of Dad. It's been a great morning with beautiful tributes. We're going to hear it from Fred, and then Fred, I know you're a music teacher, so you can teach us how to sing the last verse together, and one more thing. No drinks for anyone who doesn't stand up and at least make an effort. Okay, you know Dad would want it, so please let's join, and Fred will give us the signal to stand up and sing My Little Grass Shack. Okay, Fred, let's hear the first verse. And does everyone have the music? Okay, thank you, guys.
Oh, let me say before I start that that this song was written in 1933 for the Independence Day in Kona, and part of the celebration was a boat race. So it's very appropriate for the occasion here. And the last line of the chorus says, I want to go back to my little grass shack in Kealakekua, Hawaii, where the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a go swimming by. And that's the part we're asking you to sing, where the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a go swimming by. You think you can do it? Yes. Why not? You got the words there. I want to go back to my little grass shack in Kealakekua, Hawaii. Not yet. I want to be with all the kanis and wahinis that I knew long ago. I can hear old guitars playing on the beach at Honolulu. I can hear the old Hawaiians saying, Como mai no ka ua ika haliwelka, how it won't be long till my ship goes sailing back to Kona. It's a grand old place that's always fair to see. I'm just a little Hawaiian and a homesick Hawaiian boy. I wanna go back, here we go, to my fish and poi. I wanna go back to my little grass shack in Kealakekua, Hawaii, where the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a go swimming by. I'm gonna give you another chance to say that again. At oh now I can hear the old Hawaiians saying, Como mai no ka ua ika haliwalaka, I won't be long till my ship will be sailing back to Kona. A grand old place that's always fair to see. I'm just a little Hawaiian and a homesick island boy. I want to go back to my fish and poi. I want to go back to my little grass shack in Kealakekua, Hawaii. Here we go. Where the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a go swimming by. One more time. Where the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a go swimming by.
Thank you, Fred. Can we have a round of applause for Fred? Thank you so much, Fred. And I know, Dad, you're up there smiling as the huma huma nuka nuku apua goes swimming by. So what a beautiful morning. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for the beautiful reflections. Thank you, family and friends, for being here to support each other as we mark this important transition. And those of you who know me know that I'm a psychologist and a Jungian analyst who's very interested in what the spiritual and cultural traditions of all the world have to offer us. And I believe that the Christian tradition has these beautiful prayers for peace and blessing and rest in peace, and is very articulate about that. I want to bring something here from an Asian tradition of Buddhism, and that's called a dedication of merit. And this is the idea that as we go through life, we create something that is beautiful in our lives that has a merit to it. And that when someone passes, we think about what they've meant to us and try to incorporate it in our own lives and live it in some way forward. And I know that Dad meant a lot to each of you, so I'm going to suggest a way we might dedicate ourselves just a little bit to the merit of the life that he brought. So what I would say, the most important thing that my father gave to me, and he gave me many important gifts, the most important gift was to work with passion, to take a risk, to find work that's meaningful, and to not stay stuck in routines that lose their meaning. In my work, I see many people whose lives become empty and bare as they get stuck in those routines. And if I'm honest with myself, I find that I get stuck in routines sometimes. We all do. A profound memory I have of my dad was his closet filled with shades, as I used to tease him, in every color of the rainbow, from dark medium sober gray to light medium sober gray and everything in between. He had all kinds of shirts ranging from white Brooks Brothers button-down to blue Brooks Brothers button-down. And that reflected a certain kind of corporate deadness that he found himself caught in the late 60s and early 70s. And there was a spark that he called divine, and I believe was, that woke him up to the possibility of books on tape. He sold his Porsche, which was a beloved thing for him. And I think the man to whom he sold it is here today, and I'm so grateful for that. What a wonderful circle back. And that enabled him to pursue a dream. And he kept pursuing dreams. Not all of them worked out, but he kept pursuing them. So here's my challenge to you and to myself. As we think about the life of Duvall Hecht and what it was that meant most to each of you and to me, I think it had to do with that idea of working with passion and love and originality and daring. So ask yourself very honestly, am I stuck in some way in my life? Am I in a bit of a rut? Am I living a life that's as constraining as a gray Brooks Brothers suit? And what do I need to do to make that transition to feel more alive? And I'd urge you to reflect on that, and maybe it starts as a little something, but dreams start with a little spark of inspiration. And I really believe that that's who he was, and that's what he meant. He's given me that gift of a lot of courage that's allowed me from Leo the trust and belief that he gave her so that she can go forward in her life with confidence. And for each of us to ask ourselves that, I believe would be a really fitting tribute to the life of this man whom we all loved. So I'd like to conclude on that note and say again, thank you so much, everybody, for coming to honor his life, to support each other through this transition. We're going to have another musical reflection by the Youth Quartet in a moment. Then we're going to have a period of just allowing everybody to mingle and get a little refreshment. And then after 30, 45 minutes, we'll have a chance for people from UCI crew to speak. And in the meantime, Fred may play. So once again, thank you everyone for coming. And to close, we'll have a moment of reflection for America by Antonin Dvorak from the Pacific Symphony Youth Quartet. Thank you.
Everybody's attention, please. Please keep beers and wines on the lawn area, please, okay? Beer and wine stays in the lawn area. And you guys are amazed that I'm saying this, okay? So, all right. Okay, thank you.
And then I brought it up to her one time, and she's like, yeah. I was like, well, you can go here.
Like, yeah!
Dude, because it was fun. That's why. It's like Derek, I thought it was funny.
That's fucking hilarious.
We, the women's coaches were already not like they were perfect.
Porch thing.
Well, Dan, everything good?
Oh, yeah.
Turn it the other way too. Turn it the other way, Mary. Mary. Turn it that way. Huh? Can I have everyone's attention for a moment, please? Hello, hello, everybody. Hello. eyeballs and attention up here to the podium. Hello! Put your beers down for a second. We want to, everyone's kind of dissipating. We're losing a few people, so we wanted to give anyone else an opportunity to come up and speak for a moment if anyone has anything else they wanted to share about Duvall. I also have a couple things I'd like to say about the Friends of UCI Rowing and the rowing program here at Irvine. And I know that it's very disruptive to what's going on. So,
Tell him to sign that poster too.
oh, okay. And I'll tell him to do that. Okay, so, here, wait. Can I make it squeal? No, it's not gonna work. And then this is happening. Yeah. Now I'm waiting for the plane, but I'm still here. Just shut up, I said. I'm actually going to skip ahead a bit because the major announcement that we have to make, well, major, it's important to us, is that the Friends of UCI Rowing wants to take everything you've heard about Duvall and the new windstorm that it's about to come down upon us, and we're going to dedicate a new award that's called the Duvall Hecht Award, and it is a Lifetime Achievement Award that's going to be given annually to people who kind of embody the spirit and the incredible achievements that our beloved coach has given us all. We have unanimously as the board decided that the recipient is not going to be Duvall. He has to earn it. No, the first recipient is of course going to be Duvall Hecht. And because he only died a couple months ago and here we are today, we haven't quite figured out what the award looks like and where it's going to live and all those things, but we're going to plan to announce the first non-Duvallian winner next February. So stay tuned for who that's going to be, but we obviously have lots of rowing luminaries that have come through or been part of the rowing program, have supported us so much over the years that we wanted to make sure that Duvall's legacy lives on in a kind of perpetual way and that his name is remembered with all the oarsmen around the house. The house that Duvall built, to be clear. There's another pretty amazing announcement that we have, which is that one of our board members, Vince Mestry, who lives up in Washington State, he couldn't make it here today. He was able to contact the top brass at Ren Spooner, and next year in the official product line of 2023, there's going to be a rowing themed printed shirt that's available for sale, and it's going to be called the Dewey. So we're pretty excited about that as well. And we'll probably sell it on the website. Okay, we'll get there. And then last, I just want to acknowledge the current team. So because of the leadership of Coach AJ Brooks and Mike Sullivan, who are floating around here, you've probably talked to them, we sent the women's crew to the Head of the Charles in Boston for the first time this year. We're about to buy a new women's 8 for the first time in way too long. We have the men's varsity 8 is ranked #1 in acro, which is for club sports our division, and we're going into the championships this year in Tennessee as favorites to win. So no pressure, any of you guys who are still here. If you don't win, we'll still pay for your trip to Henley, which we're also trying to get you to go to in the summer. So going back to Henley for only the 3rd time, which is in the UK, for any of you who don't know, in our program's history. And the program has never been stronger, and it's, damn it. We have so much to thank this man for, and we're all a testament to that. And he's just affected every single one of us in such a positive way. And even if he's affected you in a negative way, you remember it, and it's probably going to turn into a life lesson. So I thank you all so much for coming here. There's too many people to thank. The shuttle stops running at 3, so if you need to get back to the dunes, you have to walk after that, but we're still here and we're kind of running. So thank you all so very much for coming. We really appreciate it. And thank you to Anne-Marie Rousseau for inviting Duvall's biological family to join his rowing family at this incredible celebration. So thank you.
I don't know why I'm telling you this anyway. I'll
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, one more thing. No, a couple more things. If anyone wants to come up and just say something about Duvall, feel free. You just have to yell through the airplanes and the wind and all the people not paying attention to you. The second thing is there's a poem, or it's a quote by George Pocock, who just spoke these words off the cuff. And Duvall had it inscribed. And if anyone wants to sign it as a memorial to Duvall, it's on the table over here. And also, anyone who rowed for Duvall as an oarsman or woman, we're welcoming you to come up, and let's try to get a photo op somewhere. And I'm being pointed at.
Tell people they feel free to take those pictures on.
Oh, right. And then also, if you want one of the photos that's on your table, just grab it and run away with it, and we won't ask questions. So, photo op for anyone who rowed for Duvall. Let's start gathering. And if anyone wants to speak, just grab this thing and you talk into it. That's how it works.
Oh, you notice everything. Thank you for coming. It's a lovely Laura. How's that makes the mango one of my favorite designers. Thank you. So good to see you guys. Find the time. We have fun tonight.
Excuse me, we found a lavender phone in the dirt. If anyone is missing a lavender phone case, I have it right up here. Do you know where Marianne Mackey?
It's right here. Here, Bob's. Marianne's phone.
Stickers on top.